The ocean has always held secrets whispered in the tides, hidden in the deep, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Tonight, we're diving into one of the greatest mysteries of all time, the lost city of Atlantis. Some say it's a myth, a story spun by Plato to teach a lesson. Others believe it's real, lying beneath the waves, its golden spires sleeping in the darkness. But for Dr. Elara Voss, a young marine archaeologist standing on the deck of a research vessel, this isn't just a legend, it's a mission. Clutching an ancient map, its edges frayed with time, she feels the weight of her grandfather's dying wish to uncover the truth. The crew murmurs about cursed waters, but Alara knows the real danger isn't the ocean. It's the doubt that creeps in when you chase something the world says doesn't exist. Where are you joining us from tonight? Whether you're curled up under a blanket as the stars come out or sipping coffee in the early morning light, we'd love to know. What time is it where you are, and what brought you to this mystery? Drop a comment below and let's make this journey together, because Atlantis isn't just a story, it's a puzzle, a riddle wrapped in the echoes of a civilization that might have been more advanced than our own. Imagine a city with technology we can't even fathom, swallowed by the sea in a single day. What if it wasn't just a tale? What if the clues are still there, waiting to be found? That's what drives Alara as she prepares for the first dive at dawn. The map in her hands isn't just parchment, it's a key, a fragile thread leading back through time. And as the ship cuts through the waves, there's a feeling in the air, something electric. Maybe it's the thrill of discovery, or maybe it's the ocean itself, stirring with the memory of what it once took. Tonight, we're not just listening to a story, we're stepping into it. So take a deep breath. The water is calling, and who knows, by the time we surface, the world might look a little different. The submersible hums as it sinks deeper, the pressure groaning against its steel hull. Alara presses her palm against the cold glass, watching as their beams slice through the inky blackness. Below them, the ocean floor comes alive, not with coral or sand, but with rows of ancient carvings, their edges worn smooth by centuries of currents. Her breath catches. Those symbols, the same spirals and angular lines from her grandfather's journal, are right there, etched into the stone like a message meant only for her. The crew falls silent, the weight of the moment pressing in. Then, without warning, the water surges. The sub lurches violently, tossing them sideways as a powerful current grabs hold. Alarms blare. The pilot's knuckles whiten on the controls. We need to surface, he shouts over the chaos, but Alara's eyes stay locked on the carvings. This is it, the proof. If they turn back now, the coordinates could be lost forever. Her voice cuts through the noise, steady and sure. Take us lower. The crew's protests blur together, but she doesn't flinch. The sub groans as it fights the current, descending further into the unknown. Then, movement. A shadow, vast and silent, glides past the edge of their light. The sonar pings wildly, the screen flashing red. Something's out there, something alive. The water itself seems to hold its breath. Every instinct screams to flee, but Alara leans closer, her reflection merging with the darkness beyond the glass. Whatever lies ahead, it's been waiting, and now, so are they. The searchlights catch it first, a massive archway, its edges carved with intricate swirls and symbols, half swallowed by the shifting sand. Elara's pulse quickens as the submersible hovers closer, the beams illuminating words etched deep into the stone. Her fingers trace the translations in her grandfather's journal, matching the symbols one by one. Only the worthy may enter, she murmurs, the weight of the warning settling over the crew. The pilot shifts uncomfortably in his seat. That doesn't sound like an invitation, he mutters. But before anyone can respond, the ocean floor shudders violently, sand swirling upward in thick clouds as a yawning trench splits open beneath them. The sub lurches, alarm screeching. One of the crew members slams a hand against the console, voice cracking. We need to go, now. Yet Elara's gaze locks onto the sonar screen, where something impossible flickers into view. A grid of straight lines, too precise for nature, stretches into the abyss. A city. The crew falls silent, fear melting into stunned disbelief. Even the panicked crewmate hesitates, his protests dying on his lips as the magnitude of the discovery sinks in. The trench isn't just a crack in the earth, it's a doorway, and beyond it, shadows shift with the eerie suggestion of towering structures, their outlines blurred by time and tide. Elara exhales slowly, her reflection ghostly against the glass. This is why we're here, she says, quiet but unshakable. The ocean has guarded this secret for millennia. Now it's letting them in. The diving suit clings to Elara's skin as she checks her oxygen gauge one last time, the crew's nervous chatter buzzing in her earpiece like distant static. You sure about this? The pilot asks, his voice tight. She doesn't answer, just seals her helmet with a quiet click and steps into the moon pool. The cold shock of the water hits first, then something else. A strange, creeping warmth, as if the ocean itself is breathing against her. Below, the trench yawns wide, its edges lined with pulsing blue light. Bioluminescent algae swirl around her like living stars, their glow intensifying as she descends, as if reacting to her presence. The crew's warnings fade beneath the thrum of her own heartbeat. Ahead, the ruins loom, their outlines blurred by time but unmistakable. A doorway, sealed tight, its surface carved with the same spirals from her grandfather's notes. Her fingers brush the stone, tracing grooves worn smooth by centuries of currents. There, at the center, a series of interlocking rings, their alignment mirroring the sketch on page 43 of the journal. Her breath stills. This isn't just a door, it's a test. The rings resist at first, then shift with a grating shudder, clicking into place one by one as she rotates them. A deep hum vibrates through the water, the sound resonating in her bones. The doorway splits open, sand cascading inward like an hourglass running out of time. Elara, come back. Now, the comms crackle with urgency, but the voice feels distant, drowned out by something else, a melody, faint at first, then swelling, weaving through the water like a siren's call. It's not coming from the ruins, it's coming from beyond them. Her flashlight beam wavers as she swims forward, the light catching on something massive. A corridor, its walls lined with towering statues, their faces eroded, but their outstretched arms seeming to guide her deeper. The water here is thicker, warmer, humming with energy. Every instinct tells her to turn back, but the melody grows clearer, notes forming a language she doesn't know, but somehow understands. It's not a warning, it's an invitation. And as the corridor curves downward into darkness, Alara realizes she's not the first to walk this path. The statues aren't guardians. They're witnesses, and they've been waiting for her. The moment Alara breaches the chamber's surface, the water slides off her suit like liquid glass, leaving her standing in dry, impossibly still air. Her breath echoes loud in the silence, the only sound besides the distant drip of water trickling down the walls. The chamber hums with an eerie blue glow, the source crystals embedded in the stone, pulsing softly as if alive. They cast shifting patterns across murals so vivid they seem freshly painted, though the scenes they depict are anything but tranquil. A great city, its towers gleaming under a golden sun, swallowed by walls of water. Faces frozen in terror, hands reaching skyward as their world collapses, and above it all, a single figure, arms outstretched toward a massive, swirling vortex. A warning, or perhaps a plea. The whisper comes not through her ears but inside her skull, a voice like wind through ruins. Why have you come? It doesn't sound hostile, only weary. Alara's throat tightens. The truth spills out before she can stop it. To understand, the crystals brighten, their light flaring as if judging her words. Then another whisper, sharper this time. Prove it. Her eyes dart to the nearest crystal, its facets flawless, humming with energy. It would be so easy to pocket one. Proof for the skeptics, a relic to make her career. Her fingers twitch, but then she sees the mural again, the arrogance in the figure's stance, the way they sought to harness forces beyond their control. Slowly, she steps back, hands raised. I didn't come to take, she murmurs. I came to listen. The chamber shudders violently, dust raining from the ceiling as the entrance seals with a thunderous crack. Trapped, panic claws at her ribs, but then her flashlight catches something new, a series of symbols carved into the floor, their arrangement mirroring the puzzle rings from the doorway. Except this one has a centerpiece, a hollow, bowl-like depression. Her grandfather's journal flashes in her mind, page after page of coded warnings. One line stands out, underlined in his shaky hand. Knowledge demands a price. The voice returns, quieter now. What will you give? Alara's hands hover over her gear. Her knife, her oxygen gauge, even the journal itself. Its pages fragile with age. But the answer comes with sudden clarity. She unclips her flashlight, its beam steady and bright, and places it in the hollow. The light winks out instantly, swallowed by the stone. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the crystals flare white hot, the murals shimmering as if alive, and the wall before her splits, open with a groan. Beyond it, a staircase spirals downward into darkness. The voice sighs, almost relieved. Remember their failure. The words cling to her as she steps forward, the chamber's glow fading behind her. The past isn't just buried here, it's waiting. The oxygen tank slips from Alara's hands with a heavy thud, rolling into the mechanism's gaping maw. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the ancient gears grind to life, their rusted teeth gnashing as the great door shutters open. A rush of stale air escapes, carrying whispers of salt and something older, something forgotten. Her chest tightens. The tank's absence is immediate, her remaining air ticking away like a death watch beetle in her ears. But the melody swells now, no longer distant but urgent, pulling her forward through the newly opened passage. The walls here are different, smooth, almost glass-like, humming with a faint vibration that resonates in her teeth. Above, the crew's voices crackle through her comms, then dissolve into static. Elara, do you copy? Elara, the line goes dead. Up on the surface, the storm hits without warning. Waves slam against the research vessel, sending equipment skidding across the deck. Jonas grips the wheel, knuckles white, his voice sharp over the howling wind. We're losing her signal. If we don't go now, we'll be next. But Mara slams a hand onto the console, her eyes blazing. You heard the readings, that's no natural storm. It's a barrier, and she's past it. The argument hangs heavy, the crew's loyalty, fraying like a rope under tension. Below them, the ocean churns, its surface alive with an unnatural phosphorescence, as if the water itself remembers what lies beneath. Elara doesn't hear the chaos above. Her world narrows to the path ahead, her flashlight beam bouncing off walls that shouldn't exist, walls carved with scenes of a people, not just advanced but transcendent. Machines harnessing the very pulse of the earth, towers that touch the clouds, and then the reckoning. The murals tell it all, the pride, the defiance, the moment the sea swallowed their arrogance whole. Her breath comes faster now, the air in her suit thinning. The melody twists, becoming a dirge, a lament. It leads her to a final archway, its threshold strewn with shattered crystal. One step, then another. The throne room yawns before her, vast and terrible in its silence. The ceiling soars into darkness, but the floor holds her gaze. It's not stone, it's water, not the ocean, but something stranger, perfectly still yet humming with latent power. And there, at its center, a dais, not for a king. For a witness, the last one. The air shivers with a voice that isn't a voice. You've come to see, but will you learn? Elara's knees buckle, her vision spotting. The answer claws its way up her throat, raw and true. I have to. The water beneath her feet ripples. Something stirs beneath its surface, waiting. The skeletal fingers grip the staff with a grip that outlasted death itself. The orb at its peak, pulsing like a captive heartbeat. Elara's hand trembles as she reaches out, the whispers now a chorus, threading through her skull in a language older than words. The moment her skin meets the orb's surface, the world fractures. Visions slam into her, not images, but lived moments. Streets choked with panicked crowds, their faces contorted as the sky splits open. A king in shattered armor, standing before a seething vortex, his voice raw with defiance as the waves rear like beasts. And beneath it all, a truth that coils around her ribs. Atlantis didn't fall to nature's wrath. It was torn apart by human hands, by the reckless hunger to wield what should have been left untouched. The orb burns hotter, searing her palm, but she can't let go. The final memory unfolds a council of robed figures, their hands pressed to a machine's core, its light spiraling out of control. The king's warning echoes, thick with grief. Bury it. Let the sea keep what we could not. The orb's glow stutters, then flares violently, casting jagged shadows across the chamber. Elara gasps as the visions vanish, leaving her hollowed out, her breath ragged. The skeletal figure crumbles to dust, the staff clattering to the floor. But the orb remains, its light now synced to the erratic rhythm of her pulse. Outside, the ocean roars. The ruins tremble, cracks spider, webbing up the walls as the storm's fury penetrates even here. Her comms crackle to life, Jonas's voice barely audible over the static. Elara, get out, the trench is collapsing, but the orb hums in her hands, its weight all at once physical and immense. The king's warning coils around her thoughts. This power, this knowledge, it wasn't meant to be found. And yet, it chose her. The chamber groans, chunks of crystal raining from the ceiling. A choice, then, flee with the orb and risk repeating Atlantis's mistake, or leave it buried and let history stay lost. The orb pulses, warm against her skin, as if listening, waiting. Above, the research vessel pitches violently, waves swallowing the deck whole. Mara clutches the sonar screen, her face draining of color as the readings spike. It's not just the storm, she whispers. The ruins, they're moving. The crew's shouts dissolve into chaos, as the ocean floor itself seems to shudder awake. Below, the throne room's walls buckle, water spewing through the cracks. Elara's grip tightens. The orb's light swells, illuminating a single path. A narrow tunnel, its entrance half collapsed. No time to think, no time to doubt. She runs, the orb's glow slicing through the dust-choked air, the whispers rising to a crescendo. They don't sound like warnings anymore. They sound like goodbye. The moment Elara's fingers close around the staff, the chamber erupts in a deafening groan. Stone grinds against stone as hidden mechanisms awaken, the walls shuddering like a beast roused from slumber. Water bursts through cracks in the ceiling, a torrential downpour that floods the space in seconds. The orb's light flickers wildly, casting jagged shadows as the exit doors slam shut with a finality that vibrates through her bones. Panic claws up her throat, no time to think, only move. She kicks off the dais just as a massive slab crashes down behind her, the force of it sending shockwaves through the water. The corridors are collapsing, their once grand arches now crumbling into debris. Elara twists through the chaos, the staff's glow her only guide as she dodges falling stone. Her lungs scream for air, the oxygen gauge blinking red, but the surface feels impossibly far. Above, the research vessel is a frenzy of motion. Jonas barks orders, his face ashen as sonar screens flash warnings of the imploding ruins. We're losing her, a crewmate shouts, but Mara's already at the rail, her eyes locked on the churning water below. Then, a flicker, a faint blue glow rising through the darkness. There, she points, voice cutting through the storm. Lower the line now. Jonas hesitates, the ship lurching as another wave slams into the hull. The ruins are sinking fast, dragging the currents with them. One wrong move, and the retrieval cable could snap. But Mara is already grabbing the controls, her hands steady. Trust me, she grits out. The line whirs as it unspools into the abyss. Elara's vision tunnels, her muscles burning. Just as the blackness threatens to swallow her, something brushes her fingertips, cold metal. The cable. She wraps her arms around it, the staff still clutched tight, and feels herself yanked upward. The world narrows to the rush of water, the roar of her own heartbeat. Then, light, air. She breaches the surface with a gasp, the staff's orb flaring as if in protest. Behind her, the ocean heaves, the ruins vanishing beneath a whirlpool of foam and shadow. The crew hauls her aboard, their voices a blur of relief and terror. But Alara can't look away from the staff in her hands. It hums faintly, a dying echo of whatever power once thrummed through it. The ruins are gone, but their warning, their terrible, beautiful warning, is now hers to carry. The ship's lanterns sway violently as the storm rages outside, casting long shadows across the cluttered research table where the staff lies. Its orb, once pulsing with an otherworldly glow, now flickers weakly, like a dying ember. Elara's hands tremble as she traces the symbols etched into its surface, the same spirals and angular lines from the ruins, the same ones from her grandfather's journal. It's not just a relic, she murmurs, her voice barely audible over the creaking hull. It's a record, a warning. Jonas leans against the doorway, arms crossed, his skepticism sharp as a blade. Or it's a hunk of metal you hallucinated after running out of oxygen. You nearly drowned down there, but Mara doesn't look away from the staff. Her fingers hover over the symbols, her breath catching. "This isn't delirium," she says quietly, pulling a weathered notebook from her bag. The pages are filled with sketches, ancient texts, fragments of myths, all bearing the same intricate designs. These symbols appear in every account of Atlantis, from Plato's dialogues to sailors' logs. But this, she taps the staff. This is the first time they've been found in 3 dimensions. Like they were meant to be touched, the orb dims further, as if retreating from their scrutiny. That night, Alara's dreams are anything but restful. The king stands before her, his robes tattered, his face a mask of grief. Behind him, the city burns, its towers collapsing into the hungry sea. "You've seen what we lost," he whispers, his voice echoing as if carried by the wind. "But you haven't seen what wakes." The dream shifts the orb, now hovering above an abyss, its light splitting into tendrils that snake across the sky. A voice, not the king's, booms like thunder. It knows you're here. Elara jolts awake, her sheets damp with sweat. The staff hums faintly on the nightst, and its vibrations sending ripples through the glass of water beside it. Outside, the storm has worsened, waves slamming against the hull with a fury that feels personal. The air crackles with energy, the scent of ozone sharp in her nose. She reaches for the staff, and the moment her fingers make contact, a jolt runs up her arm. Not pain, but recognition. The orb's glow surges once, bright enough to illuminate the entire cabin, before settling back into its faint pulse. Down in the ship's hold, Mara startles awake at the sound of creaking metal. The storm shouldn't be this loud. She grabs a flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness to reveal the hull's seams, stretched, straining. Not from the storm, from something beneath them. The sonar screen beside her bunk flickers to life on its own, displaying a shape too vast to be natural, rising from the depths. Her blood runs cold. The ruins weren't just a tomb, they were a lock, and Elara just turned the key. The horizon splits with a jagged line of black steel. A ship unlike any research vessel, its deck bristling with armed guards and equipment stamped with a logo Elara knows too well, Kronos Corp. The name alone sends a chill through her. They've shadowed every major archaeological find of the past decade, stripping sites bare before governments can intervene. And now they're here. Vance boards without invitation, his boots thudding against the deck like a judge's gavel. He's all sharp edges, sharp suit, sharper smile, but his eyes linger on the staff in Elara's grip. "Dr. Voss," he purrs, "you've been holding out on us." The crew tenses as his guards fan out, their hands resting on holstered weapons. Alara doesn't flinch. "This isn't corporate property," she says, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. Vance laughs, a sound like ice cracking. "Everything underwater is." "Or didn't your grandfather teach you that?" The mention of him is a knife twist. Alara's fingers tighten around the staff, the orb's glow pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Vance steps closer, his voice dropping to a whisper only she can hear. He was so close, wasn't he? Pity he never learned when to walk away. The words hit like a wave. Her grandfather's accident, the faulty equipment, the dive that shouldn't have killed him. The pieces snap together with brutal clarity. The staff flares violently in her hands, a surge of blue light cracking through the air like lightning. Vance staggers back, his perfect hair ruffled, his smirk wiped clean. For the first time, something flickers in his eyes, fear. Behind him, his guards reach for their weapons, but the crew is faster. Mara's already at the controls, the ship's engines roaring to life. Jonas stands shoulder to shoulder with Alara, his voice low. "You might want to leave," he growls at Vance. The orb's light dances across their faces, casting long shadows. It's not just a relic anymore, it's a weapon, and Vance knows it. He straightens his tie, the veneer of control slipping back into place. But his retreat is too quick, his steps too measured. "This isn't over," he says, though the tremor in his voice betrays him. As his ship peels away into the storm, Alara exhales, the staff humming softly in her grip. The ocean's secrets aren't just history, they're a battlefield, and she's just stepped onto it. The storm isn't just weather anymore, it's alive. Waves slam into the hull like fists, the wind howling with a voice that doesn't sound natural. Alara grips the staff, her knuckles white, as the orb's glow pulses in time with the thunder. It's reacting to her, to them, every surge of her fear, every flicker of Vance's hunger from his ship, looming in the distance. The orb drinks it in, its light flaring brighter with each passing second. Mara stumbles across the deck, her tablet clutched tight, the screen displaying a frantic translation. "It's not just a key," she shouts over the roar. "It's a conduit. The staff doesn't just control the sea. It is the sea." A crack of lightning splits the sky, illuminating Vance's ship as it cuts through the waves toward them. The warning shot hits the water mere feet from their bow, the spray stinging like shrapnel. Jonas yanks the wheel hard to port, but the storm fights him, the currents twisting as if guided by some unseen hand. Elara's pulse hammers in her ears. She can feel the staff's power humming through her veins, a terrible, intoxicating rhythm. One wrong move, one moment of weakness, and she could drown them all. Mara's fingers fly over the tablet, pulling up fragmented text from the ruins. The inscriptions. They're not just warnings, they're instructions. The staff responds to intent. If Vance gets his hands on it, another shot rings out, closer this time. The crew ducks, but Alara stands frozen, the orb's light casting her shadow long and jagged across the deck. The ocean beneath them churns, waves rising into monstrous peaks that defy physics. It's listening, waiting. Vance's voice crackles over their radio, smooth as poisoned honey. "Last chance, Doctor. Hand it over, or we'll take it." The threat hangs in the air, thick as the salt spray. Jonas meets Alara's eyes, his face grim. "We can't outrun them," he mutters, but Mara is already shaking her head, her gaze locked on the staff. "We don't have to outrun them," she says quietly. "We have to outthink them." The orb flares suddenly, its light searing blue-white, and for a heartbeat, Alara sees it, the memory of Atlantis' fall, the moment their arrogance tore the world apart. The staff isn't just a tool, it's a judge, and it's testing her. The deck lurches beneath her feet as another wave slams into them, the ship groaning in protest. Time slows. The crew's voices blur into the storm's roar. Vance's ship looms closer, its searchlights cutting through the darkness like knives. Alara closes her eyes. The choice isn't surrender or destruction, it's trust. In herself, in the ocean's wisdom, in the echoes of those who came before. Her fingers tighten around the staff. The orb's pulse steadies, sinking with her breath. When she opens her eyes, the storm doesn't feel like an enemy anymore. It feels like an ally. The waves still rise, the wind still screams, but now they rise with her. The ocean isn't just reacting, it's answering. Vance's ship barrels toward them, its engines roaring. Alara lifts the staff, and the world holds its breath. The wheel spins under Jonas's grip as the ship lurches toward the trench, its gaping mouth swallowing the churning waves whole. Vance's vessel looms behind them, searchlights carving through the spray like blades, but the staff in Alara's hands burns brighter than ever, its blue glow painting the deck in eerie, shifting patterns. The orb thrums against her palm, alive with urgency, its light pulsing toward the trench's edge, as if pulling them forward. Faster, Alara breathes, though no one hears her over the storm's howl. The crew braces as the ship plunges into the trench's shadow, the water around them turning ink black, the currents suddenly too strong, too precise, as if the ocean itself is rearranging to guide them. Then, without warning, the orb erupts. A beam of light shoots from its core, splintering into threads that weave together midair, forming a three-dimensional map, a labyrinth of caverns, their tunnels twisting beneath the seafloor like veins. Mara gasps, her fingers hovering over the hologram. "It's showing us the way," she murmurs, but the path it traces isn't just a route, it's a test. The caverns narrow in places, their ceilings studded with jagged stone, their exits barely wide enough for the ship to pass. One wrong turn, and they'll be crushed. Jonas's voice cuts through the tension, rough with doubt. "We're trusting a hunk of metal to navigate a death trap." The hull groans in agreement, the pressure of the deep squeezing the ship's seams. Alara hesitates. The staff's power thrums through her, intoxicating and terrifying. It's not just showing them the way, it's rewriting the currents, bending the sea to its will, to her will. The weight of that truth presses down harder than the ocean's depths. Mara's hand clamps onto her shoulder. "It chose you," she says, her eyes reflecting the orb's glow. "Not Vance, not Kronos, you." The unspoken question hangs between them. What if Atlantis fell because they refused to listen? Behind them, metal shrieks. Vance's ship hits the trench's edge, its hull scraping against rock as the current seize it, spinning it like a toy, but his searchlights still fix on them, unshaken. He's not giving up, and the staff knows it. The hologram flickers, then zooms in on a tunnel ahead, a near vertical drop into the abyss. Jonas swears. "That's not a path, that's a suicide run." The orb's light dims suddenly, as if waiting for her answer. Alara's chest tightens. Trusting the staff means surrendering to forces she doesn't understand. But the alternative, letting Vance seize it, feels like dooming the world to repeat Atlantis' arrogance. The ship shudders again, a warning, no more time. Her fingers tighten around the staff. "Do it," she says. The orb blazes to life, and the ship lurches forward, diving into the dark. The staff pulses violently in Elara's grip as she raises it skyward, her arms trembling with the weight of what she's about to unleash. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the ocean obeys. The waves don't just recede. They tear apart, walls of water splitting with a deafening roar to reveal a path of glistening sand, an ancient stone. The crew staggers back, their shouts drowned by the sheer impossibility of it. A corridor through the sea itself, flanked by towering liquid cliffs that defy gravity. Jonas grips the railing, his voice raw with awe. It's like the stories, but it's real. Vance's ship surges forward, engines screaming, desperate to follow before the path closes. Elara's breath catches. She didn't mean. She never wanted, but the staff thrums in her hands, its power humming through her veins like a second heartbeat. The walls of water shudder, then collapse inward with a force that sends shockwaves through the trench. Vance's vessel crumples like paper, metal screeching as the sea swallows it whole. The crew freezes, no lifeboats, no survivors, just silence. Guilt coils in Elara's throat, thick and suffocating. She didn't pull the trigger, but the staff answered her fear, her anger. The orb's glow dims, its light guttering like a candle in the wind. Spent, the path ahead narrows, funneling them toward a crescent of white sand, barely visible through the mist. An atoll that shouldn't exist, its edges shimmering with a haze that bends the light like desert heat. The ship scrapes onto the shore, the crew spilling onto the beach with the dazed urgency of refugees. Mara collapses to her knees, her fingers sinking into sand that's warm to the touch. Not just warm, vibrating. She yanks her hand back as if burned. It's breathing, she whispers, the others still, sensing it too. The air here is thick, charged, pressing against their skin like invisible hands. The trees rustle without wind, their leaves glinting with an unnatural sheen. Even the waves sound different, slower, heavier, as if the ocean itself is listening. Jonas kicks at a seashell, only to recoil when it rolls toward him of its own accord. "This place isn't right," he mutters, but Elara's gaze is fixed on the staff, now dull and lifeless in her hands. The atoll's energy prickles against her skin, a silent invitation, or a warning. Somewhere beyond the tree line, something hums, a sound too low for human ears, but felt deep in the bones. The crew exchanges glances. They came for answers, but the island, it seems, has questions of its own. The plants here don't just grow, they breathe. Their leaves shimmer with the same eerie blue glow as the crystals in Atlantis' ruins, pulsing faintly as if sharing a single heartbeat. Elara steps forward, her boots sinking into sand that feels unnaturally warm beneath her soles. The air hums with energy, thick with the scent of salt and something sweetly metallic, like ozone after a storm. And then the voice returns, not a whisper this time, but clear as if spoken beside her ear. "Sanctuary." The word hangs in the air, heavy with meaning. This isn't just an island. It's a relic, a fragment of Atlantis itself, hidden away when the rest sank beneath the waves. The staff trembles in her grip, its dull orb flickering weakly, as if straining toward the heart of the atoll. She doesn't need the king's ghostly presence to understand. This is where it belongs. Not in a lab, not in Vance's vaults. Here, where the very earth remembers what was lost. But the jungle rustles behind her, and the moment shatters. Vance's men stagger from the trees, their uniforms torn, their faces smeared with blood and sweat. But their guns are steady, aimed straight at her chest. Vance steps forward last, his suit jacket long discarded, his sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms lined with fresh scratches. He's breathing hard, but his smirk is back, sharp as a shark's grin. You're predictable, Doctor, always running toward the past. His gaze locks onto the staff, hunger flashing in his eyes. Give it to me, or I'll take it from your corpse. Elara doesn't move. The staff is cold now, lifeless, its power drained. She tightens her grip anyway. You don't understand what this is, she says, her voice barely louder than the waves. What it does, Vance laughs, the sound jagged. Oh, I understand perfectly. It's leverage. He nods to his men. Take it. The first soldier lunges, and the jungle strikes. Vines whip forward like serpents, coiling around his ankles, his wrists, yanking him off his feet with a force that sends his gun skittering across the sand. The others shout, firing wildly, but the bullets don't hit flesh. The trees themselves seem to twist, branches snapping out to block the shots, leaves glowing brighter with every impact. Vance stumbles back, his arrogance crumbling into raw terror as the very ground beneath him shifts, roots erupting to pin his legs. Alara watches stunned as the atoll defends itself. The plants move with purpose, their glow intensifying, their tendrils weaving a living cage around the intruders. The soldiers scream, but the vines don't strangle, they restrain, as if the island itself knows the difference between violence and justice. The king's voice echoes again, softer now, almost mournful. Sanctuary remembers. The staff's orb flickers once, a final pulse before going dark for good. Alara exhales, her knees buckling under the weight of realization. This place isn't just a remnant of Atlantis. It's its conscience, and it's been waiting for someone worthy to bring the staff home. The vines tighten around Vance's wrists, dragging him to his knees. For the first time, he looks small, human. The island hums around them, a sound like a sigh. The choice is made. The past won't repeat itself. Not here, not again. The vines loosen their grip as Alara steps forward, her palms raised. The soldiers gasp for air, their faces streaked with mud and terror. Jonas is already moving, pulling bandages from his pack, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. Mara kneels beside the nearest injured man, pressing a wad of cloth to his bleeding arm without hesitation. Vance watches them, his breath ragged, his designer shoes sinking into the humming sand. Why, he croaks, staring at Alara. After everything, why help us? The staff lies between them, its orb dark, its carvings dulled. Alara doesn't reach for it. Because this isn't about winning, she says quietly. It never was. The words seem to unravel something in Vance. His shoulders slump, his voice cracking. Kronos, they had my sister. Promised they'd release her if I delivered the staff. His hands clench. They lied. The admission hangs in the air, raw and ugly. The jungle rustles, the glowing leaves trembling as if in recognition. Then, the king's voice, not a whisper, but a resonance deep in the earth itself. Only through unity can balance be restored. The staff trembles, its tip sinking into the sand of its own accord. Alara doesn't stop it. The moment it touches the ground, the atoll shudders. Roots erupt from the soil, weaving around the staff like protective fingers. The sand shifts, the trees straighten, and the very air thrums with renewed energy. The ocean, wild and furious moments ago, stills as if smoothed by an invisible hand. The waves lap gently at the shore, their rhythm slow, reverent. Vance's men stare, their weapons forgotten. One by one, they nod, not to Alara, not to Vance, but to the island itself. No one would believe us anyway, mutters the youngest soldier, wiping blood from his brow. The others chuckle, the sound brittle but genuine. Jonas doesn't laugh. His camera is out, the red recording light blinking steadily. Mara catches his eye, her brow furrowed. "You're really gonna film this?" He hesitates, his thumb hovering over the stop button. "The world needs to know," he says, but his voice lacks conviction. The staff's final pulse had seared something into his mind. The ruins, the whirlpool, the way the sea obeyed. Some truths aren't meant for screens. Elara turns toward the heart of the atoll, where the staff now stands entwined with vines, its carvings shimmering faintly. The sanctuary isn't just rising, it's awakening, and as the first bird song rings through the trees, a sound no human has heard for millennia, she understands. The staff wasn't a key to power, it was a call, and the world at last is answering. The repaired ship creaks underfoot as Alara stares at the blank logbook page, the pen trembling in her fingers. Behind her, Mara paces the narrow cabin, her boots thudding against the worn floorboards. "People have the right to know," she insists, her voice sharp with conviction. This isn't just some artifact. It's proof of an entire civilization, of what humanity could be. Jonas leans against the doorframe, arms crossed, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by a grim focus. "And what happens when corporations like Kronos hear about it?" he counters. "When governments start carving up the atoll like a prize. We saw what greed did to Atlantis." "You really want to hand them the blueprint?" The staff's last vision flickers in Alara's mind, not the fall this time, but the moment before. The council, robed and resolute, standing atop their gleaming city as the waters rose. Not fleeing, not fighting, choosing, erasing themselves rather than letting their knowledge become a weapon. The memory lodges in her chest like a splinter. She looks down at the logbook, its pages pristine, waiting for her lie. Mara's hand lands on her shoulder, warm and insistent. "Think of the research, the breakthroughs, and the wars," Jonas interrupts quietly. "The ones fought over oil, over land. Imagine what they'd do for power like that." His gaze flicks to the porthole, where the last glow of the atoll still shimmers on the horizon. Alara's pen touches paper. The words come slowly at first, then faster, sight unrecoverable. Ruins collapse during seismic event. No artifacts retrieved. The lie takes root, ugly but necessary. Mara exhales sharply, turning away, but she doesn't tear the page out. Jonas nods once, his relief palpable. By dawn, the atoll is gone. Not hidden, not shrouded in mist, vanished, as if the ocean itself reclaimed it. The crew gathers at the rail, silent, watching the empty horizon. No coordinates marked. No proof left, just the salt on their lips and the weight of what they'll carry. Elara closes the logbook with a soft snap, Some secrets aren't meant to be found. And this time, the world will never know to look. The official report lands with a thud on the museum director's desk. Its crisp pages declaring the expedition a total loss. Alara keeps her expression neutral as she slides her grandfather's weathered journal across the polished wood. For the archives, she says, ignoring the way her fingers linger on the spine, where 3 crucial pages now rest safely in her pocket. The director beams, oblivious, already calling for a curator to display it beside other noble failures. Outside, rain streaks the windows like tears, blurring the bustling street where Vance waits under a black umbrella. His tailored suit is new, but the sharpness in his eyes has softened. Kronos collapsed after the atoll vanished, he says by way of greeting, handing her a check with far too many zeros. Consider this reparations. The funds aren't for treasure hunting. They are for shields sewn on our barriers to protect fragile ruins from looters. A project even the skeptics can't argue with. Mara's manuscript arrives 2 weeks later, wrapped in brown paper and smelling of coffee. The title gleams in gold foil, The Drowning City. Alara flips to chapter 7 and finds the passage verbatim from the staff's carvings, disguised as fictional prophecy. Mara's note flutters out. Some truths are too loud for nonfiction. Jonas's documentary premieres at midnight in a tiny art house theater. The camera lingers a second too long on a blurred still, a shadowed figure holding something that could be driftwood, or could be a relic pulsing with blue light. No one notices, no one but Alara, who catches his wink from across the dim room. That night, she walks alone along the pier, salt wind tangling her hair. The ocean stretches endlessly, keeping its secrets as it always has. Somewhere beneath the waves, roots twist around an ancient staff, and leaves glow in the dark. Elara smiles, tucking her hands into her pockets. Let the world believe what it wants. The best stories are the ones we never tell outright. The package arrives wrapped in plain brown paper, its edges softened by time and salt air. Alara's fingers hesitate before peeling it away, the weight familiar yet foreign in her palms. Inside, nestled in a bed of dried kelp, lies the crystal, its surface clouded at first, then clearing as if waking from a long sleep. The moment her skin touches it, the room dims. The king's face materializes in the air, not as a ghost, but as a living memory, his eyes warm with something deeper than gratitude. You chose balance over power. His voice resonates, though his lips don't move. The sanctuary remembers. The projection shifts scenes of the atoll's rebirth, vines curling around new growth, roots knitting together like old friends. Then the ocean's voice, the same one that once haunted her dreams, now gentle as a tide pool's ripple. You were worthy. The crystal's glow fades, but the warmth lingers. Alara turns to her grandfather's portrait, the one she's kept on her desk since the expedition. His painted eyes seem to crinkle at the corners, as if he's sharing the joke at last. She places the crystal beside the frame, where it catches the late afternoon light, casting prismatic shapes across the map pinned to her wall. The parchment is weathered, marked with the usual shipping lanes and depth charts, except for one circled spot in the South Pacific, its ink fresh. The coordinates don't match any known ruin, any documented current, but the crystal pulses once, a heartbeat of confirmation, and Alara smiles. Downstairs, Mara's laughter drifts up from the research lab, mingling with Jonas's grumbling about outdated sonar equipment. The world has moved on, filed the Atlantis expedition under unsolved mysteries, but the ocean keeps its secrets, and so does she. The camera lingers on the map as the wind rustles through the open window, lifting the edges like an invitation. Some legends don't die, they simply wait for the right hands to hold them. The sun dips low, painting the horizon in molten gold as Alara stands on the unfamiliar shore, her boots sinking into sand, still warm from the day's heat. The wind carries more than salt tonight. It carries a melody, faint but unmistakable, the same haunting refrain that once echoed through Atlantis's crumbling halls. Her fingers brush the crystal in her pocket, its surface humming softly against her skin, a silent reminder that some bonds never truly break. This isn't the ending she imagined when she first set sail, clutching her grandfather's journal like a lifeline. Back then, she thought discovery meant bringing secrets into the light. Now, she understands the deeper truth. Some mysteries are meant to stay hidden, not out of fear, but out of reverence. The sanctuary isn't lost. It's alive, pulsing beneath the waves, its roots tangled with the very heartbeat of the ocean, and it chose her, not to exploit its power, but to protect its silence. A wave crashes, spraying her ankles with foam that glows faintly blue before dissolving into the dark. The phenomenon would have sent her racing for samples months ago. Tonight, she simply smiles. The world may never know the full story of Atlantis, the arrogance that drowned it, the wisdom that survived, but its legacy isn't in ruins or relics. It's in the quiet choices of those who listen. Alara closes her eyes, letting the melody wrap around her like a tide. She doesn't need maps or journals anymore. The ocean speaks to her in ways she can't explain, in currents that guide her steps, in dreams that feel more like memories. When she opens her eyes, the last sliver of sun vanishes beneath the water, and the crystal in her pocket flares once, a fleeting pulse of light. "Thank you," she whispers, not to the wind, not to the sky, but to the depths themselves. The words are swallowed by the roar of the waves, but she knows they're heard. Somewhere beyond the horizon, leaves rustle in an unseen breeze, and roots tighten around an ancient staff. The screen fades to black, but the ocean's song lingers, a promise carried on the salt-kissed air.